Thank you, Senator Hiller.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll take my 30 minutes now.
Well,
First of all, thank you very much for holding this hearing, and thank you also for your commitment to tax reform. And I want to thank the Secretary for being here also, and thank you for your patience to get where we are now. The comments made by Senator Schumer and Portman are very reflective on some of the thoughts that I've had. And you and I have had some pretty good conversations in this hearing just a year ago when we were talking about the highway bill and the use of repatriation, those revenues for a fundamental change in the way we deal with infrastructure in this country. With the passage of the five-year highway bill that was supported by the administration, is there a different use now for those revenues? You keep talking about infrastructure, but is there another use for it?
So, Senator, as you and I have discussed, the 5-year reauthorization was important because going year to year is terrible, but it did not have sufficient funding to provide for the kinds of expansions of infrastructure that we need in so many parts of our country, including the West. So for us to be able to have opportunities to build the infrastructure we need for the 21st century, we're going to need more funding. We think that using the funds associated with business tax reform are a win-win. First of all, the biggest advocates for infrastructure investment are the businesses of the United States. They need us to have better roads.
I agree with
so
you.
I think that, and there's bipartisan basis for agreement. So we're still very much of the view that bringing them together is essential.
No, and I'm pleased that you have a continued view that perhaps we get something done this year. I don't know what the possibilities of. That's probably up to the chairman more than it is up to me, but I certainly do hope that we keep open minds on this process. I want to turn to another subject, and that's the IRS. And the GAO report provided, and I'll say the quote, the lowest level of telephone service during the fiscal year of 2015. You have oversight. You have oversight. Only 30%, 38% of the callers were able to reach an IRS agent.
It's terrible.
What's the new threshold? I mean, you oversee the IRS. What is the threshold that you want to meet?
Senator, my goal would be for everyone to get their phone call answered.
I would agree. What's realistic?
But if you visit an IRS call center, you have empty seats where there should be people answering the phones. It takes people during tax season to answer the phones. At the end of the year, we got an increase in appropriation that gave us the ability. We are hiring people. You know, we worked as quickly as we could. This tax season, we will have more people in place to answer calls. It won't be perfect. We didn't get enough money to completely solve the problem, but we are going to dramatically improve.
What should be the expectation?
You know, Commissioner Koskin will be here this afternoon.
Right, and I'm going to ask him the same
He probably
questions.
will be in a better position to give you a pinpoint estimate. You know, we want to substantially reduce the wait time and the drop rate because, frankly, I believe it's unacceptable for taxpayers to call their government and not get an answer. But that wasn't because we didn't want to answer the phones. We weren't given the money to hire people to answer.
Is that your responsibility or Koskin's responsibility?
Well, he manages the IRS on a day-to-day basis. It reports up to me. He and I talk about this issue. I advocated for the funding that we got in December, so I very much am engaged in making sure that we do better here. But what neither he nor I can say is that we can get the phones answered if we don't have enough people. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. We started in the...
So what is the expectation, I guess is what I'm trying to get.
So I don't have it. I just don't have a number off the top of my head. You know,
we all have the same goals, but what is the expectations?
The expectation is it will be approaching 70%.
All right.
Approaching 70%. Whether it'll hit 70%, Commissioner Koskinen can maybe give you a little bit more. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. They were recruiting people before the appropriation passed in the hope that the appropriation was passed, but they couldn't hire anyone until they had the money. So we're talking about from the end of the year till now, standing up new personnel to be in place, trained to answer questions.
All right.
So
let's change topics real quick because I don't have a lot of time here. He's not giving me my 30 minutes. On the omnibus, as you know, there's a 2-year delay on the Cadillac tax. In your budget, you talk about a geographic adjuster. Can you explain the geographic adjuster?
You know, the idea behind the Cadillac tax was always to just hit the top, most expensive plans and say that this is a way to bend the cost curve and a way to make sure
that affected 1.3 million Nevadans.
And it had geographical disparities because of cost differences in different areas. And there was concern, fairly broad concern, that it was getting beyond the highest price plans. Where the proposal that we have is, addresses the concern about geographical disparity, and it also makes it clear that it applies to the most expensive plans. And we continue to believe it's very important if we're going to get our hands on the entitlement problem that we've all talked about. Part of that is bending the cost curve on healthcare, and the Cadillac tax helps you do that.
Is there any other tax that has a geographical adjuster to it?
I'm not sure if that, I'm looking at my tax counsel part. Yeah, I'd have to go back and check if there are others, but.
Here's my concern. It may affect California, it may affect New York, but I have a feeling that it's not going to affect Nevada. And, you know, our unions, our public employees are all going to be affected. Our senior citizens are all going to be affected by this Cadillac tax in a couple of years. And if this geographical adjustment doesn't affect Nevada, then I've got some issues with it.
But Senator, the way this will work is that the threshold will be set at the gold plan level by state. So states with higher costs will get a higher threshold. I'd have to check where Nevada fits on the series.
Can you get back
But
with
we can
me
get
on
back
that?
to you.
Okay, I'd like
It was meant to address, you know, in a fair way across the country, making sure that the gold plan reflected local costs. But we can get back to you.
Secretary, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.